How are you today?
Well, very good. It's a pleasure to be talking to the ultimate skeptic.
Now tell me, how long have you been a wrestler?
I've been wrestling since 2003. I've wrestled for KYDA Pro, Summit Pro, local wrestling talent out of Waynesboro. Right now, Summit Pro out of, let's see here, what is that? Blue Ridge Summit, Pennsylvania.
Okay, and do you do this professionally or amateur?
No, this is definitely professional wrestling.
Professional wrestling. And um, is there much money to be made in at the level that you're in?
At the level I'm in, no. You got to work really hard and get noticed by the talent scouts to get up into places like TNA, WWE, Ring of Honor, those promotions. Then once you make a name for yourself, you can start making money on the independent level.
Now, on a when you talk about levels, tell me about how many levels there are from wrestling to the backyard kids that beat each other up all the way to the superstars like Ric Flair. How many levels are there?
Well, I mean, you start off, with the backyarders that have no training, no knowledge, that hurt each other. I went through professional wrestling school in Salisbury, Maryland, with Damian the Assassin Anderson. That can last anywhere from 6 months to a year, depending on how well you learn. And then you start in on the independent leagues. Uh, Different independent leagues have different, all of them. Nikolai Volkov comes and wrestles at Blue Ridge Summit. The Patriot. Big names come to a lot of the small leagues, in their retirement years, as it were, and some on their way up. So it's, the independent league is, just like the minor leagues in baseball. It's where you perfect your skills.
And so you've been doing this since 2002. You went to wrestling school, and now what kind of venues? When you go to do an event, where about how many people are usually at these events where you perform?
Well, I've wrestled in high school gyms. Some of the bigger gyms can hold up to 3 or 4 thousand people if it's a big gym. Mostly, I started out at the VFW halls. The first show I ever did had like 130 people at it. I did a high school gym at Spotswood High School. Drawing off of no names. As a big show, but the only names that were really promoted there was the girls basketball coach, who's a special ed teacher, Coach Dotson. He and I had a match. We were the semi-main event. We drew about 250 people there. Blue Ridge Summit, we average between 60 and 150 people there per show. So it depends on the venue. That's a fire hall where we wrestle there.
Wow. So I heard you say at one time that a lot of the stuff you do is for charity. Is that correct?
Yes, I don't. Whenever I've wrestled, generally it's a fundraiser show for either special needs kids, or when I'm at the fire hall up in Summit, maybe someone's house burned down. One year at Christmas, someone's house burned, and the proceeds from the show went to help the family get back on their feet. So whenever I wrestle, I actually don't get paid. If they are going to pay me, I tell them to take that money and put it towards the event we're fundraising for. I do it for the fun.
Now, I don't know. Have you ever been on the business end? Do you know what a show costs to put on?
It depends on the state. Different athletic commissions, just like Virginia, to put a show on, you have to have a promoter's license. That's roughly $500. And then you need an event license. That's another $125. Insurance, you have to get through Lloyd's of London, so that can be anywhere from 300 a show, or $800 a year, maybe 1,500 a year, depends on how many shows you put on. Then you have to rent the venue where you're going to have the show. If it's a high school that's putting on a fundraiser, generally you won't have to pay rent on it, but a lot of the proceeds go to that show.
I see. Now, we've known each other a very long time. I think it's been about 34 years.
What were we like?
I was 12 years old when I met you.
Really?
Yeah, so I remember. Absolutely, I remember. I remember where I met you. And I remember our high school years. Yeah, we have a long history, and I remember many times you talking about wanting to get into wrestling, and that was a dream that you had, and it's pretty cool to see that you finally gotten to that plateau. Now, what took you so long to decide to actually become a wrestler?
Well, it wasn't about deciding. It's about finding someone to train me. I mean, in those early years when we knew each other, at one time, when I turned 18, I think you'd come up visit me in Virginia during a blizzard, and I called up Jim Crockett Promotions and talked to Gene Anderson and about tryouts, and he told me, well, it's $250 for a tryout, and if we break your leg or you quit, then you're not good enough. If you can make it past our trial, then we'll get you to a wrestling school where you have to pay an exorbitant amount to learn the trade, and if you survive that, then you move on and get into something. And quite frankly, I'd never had the money until 2002, and I'd been out. I had an injury from work where I'd blown a disc out of my back and had surgery. And the surgeon told me it'd take me a year to be cleared to do anything. 6 months later, he gave me a full clear, and I heard about wrestling school. I went from the doctor's office to the wrestling school, signed up, and I had the money at the time, put a down payment down, and started training that night.
Was wrestling, when you got into the world of professional wrestling, was it anything like you thought it was going to be?
Not really. It's a lot harder than I thought it would be. Everyone keeps talking professional wrestling is fake. I'm here to tell you, it ain't fake. The first night of training, they took me and they stretched me and bent me. They made balloon animals out of me. They beat me until my back was so sore I couldn't walk, because they wanted to see if I was tough enough. They wanted to see if I was going to quit. And that's your first thing, is they want to see if you're going to have the stones to stay the road. They want to see if you're tough enough, if you're going to quit, or if you're going to go away whining and crying or whatever. And quite frankly, I'd made up my mind that if I invest that much money, they're going to have to kill me to get me to quit.
Now, every aspect in life has some sort of politics involved. Are there much politics in wrestling?
Oh, absolutely. You got the promoters, and even in big business, everyone's like, oh, nobody likes a brown noser. Well, I'm here to tell you, wrestling promoters, they want someone that's going to kiss their behind and stroke their ego, and quite frankly, I don't do that. And that's limited a lot of what I do. Up in Summit, the promoter up there is one of the very few stand-up promoters. The idea of a wrestling promoter is lie once and cheat twice. But the guy up in Summit, he's a prince. He owns a restaurant, and he treats people like he wants to be treated.
So, how many different leagues have you wrestled with?
Let's see here. About 6 different leagues I've wrestled with. I've thought about doing some traveling with it if I could actually get my name out there. I've wrestled for KYDA, TNT, which is Ward Family Promotions, which he kind of changes his business from time to time. Local Wrestling Talent, Summit, and let's see here, who else? There's one other one I can't remember, but there's one or two that I have some tryouts coming up with in May if I want to go up and do a tryout match with their talent to see if they like me enough.
Have you ever done a televised show?
No, I've had a couple of opportunities to do some local shows that are televised down around Bluefield, West Virginia. A friend of mine wanted me to go. Boy, I actually helped train. He's big, he's good, but I just didn't feel like driving 200 miles to do a 10-minute match and then drive 200 miles home afterwards.
Right. Now, let's see. What was I going to ask you? Kind of had something on my mind I was going to ask you, and I've completely slipped my mind. So, wow, I really hate brain farts like that. So tell me more.
Well, there's several different styles of wrestling. A lot of the guys are chain wrestlers that have a good amateur background. Then you have your high flyers, and you've seen them on TV. They got more moves than a case of X-Lax. Me, I kind of take the old school approach to professional wrestling, kind of from the Crockett Promotions. Guys like Greg Valentine, the Mighty Igor, Sweet Hansen. I'm a ground and pounder. I enjoy hardcore wrestling. I love using toys in the ring, steel chairs, trash cans, ladders, tables. 90% of my matches have involved tables. That's a load of fun.
I have seen some of your photographs from wrestling, and I've seen your back imprinted with barbed wire, and I've seen lots of really extreme things. It's really hard to grasp what you guys do for entertainment purposes.
For me, entertainment to the fans is one thing. I like to entertain myself, but I think one of my main points is if I can keep, this is a thank you to the guys that have came before me. They kept me off the streets and out of trouble. And if I can keep one kid from going out and drinking or drugging or getting married or something stupid like that, then I've done a good thing because I've kept them from making mistakes that probably you and I made when we were teenagers.
Now, how does someone of your age keep up with all the young guys coming into the sport?
For me, I'm very, very picky about how I wrestle. And as far as the young guys, the last match that I was in, and I think you saw the video of it just recently, I had on my Facebook page, tag team work. My tag team partner, Jacob Kestrel, we could pass for twins. But he and I, we work as a tag team, and that way you get a chance to get a breather in a match. I tell you now, 5 minutes in the ring, and I'm blown up. I can hardly breathe at that point, so I definitely need someone that has my back and keeps me from doing stupid stuff that endangers my own body.
Now, I've heard you say before that to you, it's not about winning or the appearance of winning, it's putting on a good show.
Yes. For me, people go out and depends on where the show is. They're paying anywhere between $10 and $20 to go to a show, and each guy has their own little segment of the show. But if I don't make sure that each fan gets their money's worth out of the match that I'm involved in, I'm not a real happy person because, yeah, if I'm paying for it, I definitely want to get my money's worth. And if I have to take a harder beating, or if I have to give out a harder beating, even better yet, then that's what I'm going to do to make sure that, you know, these kids or whoever's watching the show have a smile on their face and they're saying, wow, how is he still walking after that beating?
Now it's true that a lot of people don't even know you by your real name. Even your friends call you by Venom. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, except, you know, Coach Dotson's class at Spotswood, they call me by a little different name. I was in there doing a little demonstration for them, and yeah, this is a special needs class. And they said, "You look just like Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley." So from that point on, at Spotswood, everyone, no matter what name I'm wrestling under, I keep hearing, "Hey, Squiggy, how you doing?" And it's just, yeah, that's one of the few things in life that'll make me smile,
Yeah.
is those kids there, because they are just so great.
Awesome. Is there anything that you would like to add as we're closing the interview?
Well, you know, I'll just say this. Anyone that sees this, whatever you do, do not do this at home. Do not do this without training. I've had a broken nose. I've had a broken arm in the same match. I've had my sternum bruised. I've had my knee blown out. I've had about 50 concussions. Without the proper training, you have no business doing it, and people have gotten killed. Even professionals, yeah, have gotten put in wheelchairs permanently. People have lost their lives. It's just not worth risking if you haven't been trained. So just be mindful, watch it, enjoy it, but if you're going to do it, have someone that knows how to do it properly teach you. That way you protect yourself.
Well, thank you, Venom. I appreciate this opportunity to have been able to ask you about wrestling and the things that you do. And I hope that we can do an interview again sometime.
Anytime, it'd be my absolute pleasure. The Ultimate Skeptic, wow, and Venom. Now, there's a team that can really cause some controversy in the long run.
Yes, I will definitely have to interview you at some point on your political and religious beliefs. That would be quite interesting.
Absolutely. I take heat for that one all the time.
Thank you. You have a good night.
Thank you, sir. You too.